Hello, welcome back to Search with Sean, with me, Sean. And yeah, this is part of our Chat with Sean series. Really looking forward to this guest. It's someone I've been following for a while. And before I introduce them, I'll just, as I usual, do some introductions. Firstly, with me, obviously, I'm Sean Barber. I'm currently the SEO Manager at Macmillan Cancer Support. Been working in digital marketing now for many years and focusing on SEO for a good several years now. So really into the topic. And yeah, today's guest is Sara Taher, who's you should follow on LinkedIn and everything else social. I'm really only on LinkedIn, so I think also on X and things like that. But yeah, quick introduction to Sara, and yeah, we'll go into it. So Sara has been doing SEO now since 2014. She's worked both in-house and agency side with many local and international brands, helping businesses execute SEO strategies that deliver more for customers and conversions. She is currently the SEO Manager at Digital Sisco and is an ex-mentor for Women in Tech SEO. But like I say, share a lot of really helpful stuff on LinkedIn as well, which is obviously why I know you mostly, and your videos you've done with Majestic and all sorts of other. So yeah, welcome, Sara, and thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Sean, for having me. I'm super happy to be here today.
Yeah, even though it's super early, which it's my fault.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You know, when I looked at the invite, I was like, okay, let's have an early start to the day. I prefer that, so no worries.
Good. I'm used to it with kids. I kind of have to get up and I kind of So I guess
school prep, right? Like you have to wake up early, prepare stuff for school. Yeah, wake them up, right?
Exactly. So yeah. Well, we've got lots of topics to cover. So much going on in search, but first of all, I wanted to discuss. I know you're putting together. It sounds a really fantastic course. What are the plans for it? How's it going? How's it going to all be put together, and any potential sort of dates and launch dates kind of floating around? Yeah,
I feel like I really downplayed the amount of effort that needs to be put into this. I want to launch it before September, so let's see how this goes. I'm even thinking of doing like a partial launch, like when 50% of the course is ready, like launch it and then, continue adding lectures from there. So yeah, I mean, it's really fun working on the course. It's just for me, because it's my first course. I'm like really particular about like how I want to tell the information and the things I want to tell, right? And a lot of the time goes towards thinking how to pass this piece of information, for example, in a way that's memorable, like, and easy to understand and execute on. Thinking of
Sorry, I was going to say what I'm sure you're going to, or is it like a generalized SEO, or has it got certain focuses on it?
Okay, so it's about SEO strategy specifically, and I don't think we talk about SEO strategy enough in SEO. Like we talk about tech audits, we talk about, content planning and keyword research and all these things. However, not the content, the SEO strategy, because and when we say SEO strategy, people come up with like a list of stuff to do for the like next 12 months. That's an SEO strategy, and it's usually like a one size fits all that you apply to all your clients. So a strategy is actually about making decisions. If you have a list that's pre-planned, there's no decisions there. Like it's just a checklist, right? And the thing is, for each client, they have different business goals, and therefore it makes sense that different SEO activities or efforts are going to be needed different from one client to the other, right? If a client is going after, for example, a specific set of URLs on their website they want to rank, it's different than a website that a business that's interested in going improving their awareness in search, for example, right? Very different. businesses that are interested in conversions, versus businesses that are going after traffic, like publishers, for example, and so on. So you need to have different strategies and ways to approach these types of businesses and their goals. So that's the core of that course.
That's fantastic. And also, just thinking about it, even when you work for a larger brand, you've got different strategy within different parts of the business. Some are focused around, like say, e-commerce and conversions, and some are based around, engagement metrics and awareness metrics. So you have to have different strategies. You can't just like say one shoe fits all. And so how far are you along with getting?
Okay, that's really embarrassing. I'm like, okay, it's very embarrassing. I'm like 20%. So
No,
that's
that's
like very embarrassing. I need to move faster. So there are two challenges for me to finish it. I'm trying to maintain like a work-life balance situation, which is not easy when you have a lot of like stuff you want to do in your life, and then you have a lot of stuff you want to do in SEO as well. And then the second challenge is I'm thinking too much of every lecture. I hope once I finish, like the part I'm working on right now is the SEO mindset, the strategy mindset. I hope that once I'm past this, it's going to be faster. I'm assuming this is taking me much longer because it's a mindset thing, and I want to make sure that I pass this in a good way.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, I did a technical SEO course with Christina Azarenko, and yeah, she kept adding little bits as it went along. It wasn't so, that can work, and it was a really great course. And the reason I like these kind of courses because you do kind of the usual, and I'm not saying they're bad because they're not, but you do the SEMrush and you do the Google's own courses and stuff, and they're very generic, mainly, kind of things, and you kind of don't learn too much if you've already got enough kind of experience. So coming from experts like yourself, where I think it'd be great. And then obviously, I guess, where would it sit kind of on a website, or because I know obviously Spotify are going into courses now, so they're kind of widen the kind of playing field a bit now.
Yeah, I'm using Podia. It's a really good platform, by the way, and I highly recommend it. I tried different ones, like played around a bit, and then I feel Podia is good because it's not just for first the functionalities you have for the course is really cool, and then you can also add other products if you want, like digital products or whatever, separate from the course, right? It's like a storefront for yourself. So I highly recommend Podia. Yeah.
Cool. And will it be kind of text-based or video-based, or a bit of both?
Both.
Or... Cool. No, I
Yeah.
look forward to it.
Mainly video, but the transcript will be there. There is one textual lecture so far.
Okay. No, it sounds great. And yeah, well, obviously, when you're further down the line and you're looking to launch, then obviously it'd be great to have you back on and kind of go over it. That'd be awesome. But it sounds, I think, like you say, it's kind of the strategy piece isn't always that like you say, it's kind of like checklist and stuff. And we know working in the industry, it's not always like that. So I look forward to it. So I guess we just go into different few topics that I've laid out. That'd be awesome to get your point of view on everything.
Sure. Let's dive in.
Yeah, let's go for it. Obviously, there's so much going on. In terms of the current state of search, something I'm asking a lot of sort of experts in the moment. How would you make out the current state of search? Obviously, you've got everything going on at Google, Bing doing their own thing. There's talk of OpenAI building their own search. So yeah, what do you make of it all?
I think the challenge right now is the landscape is changing faster than we can as individuals analyze. So the best thing I recommend right now is to keep your eyes and ears open to, case studies, insights from others as well, because you will not be able to cover it all on your own. And I think the challenge right now, as I said, is the landscape is moving so fast. It's hard to come with tactics that would work since the dust has not settled yet, right? Things keep changing. And what I recommend, so obviously the basics stay the same. However, it's something I also recommend is doing manual work and relying less on tools. A lot of the tools are still catching up. And like your best tip is just analyzing the SERPs yourself and testing things, right? I've seen people say like testing is not important. If you're not able to test, then you'll need to even invest more time on learning from others. However, like testing things yourself, I definitely recommend that, right? Looking in SERPs, why is this ranking, why it's not. So something I've been doing recently, for example, that I was very interesting for me. I always recommended using the title tags to the max, like maximizing them. It's an asset you have, and one of like the probably one of the like very few elements that you have control over that is actually impactful. So that's my mindset, and it worked. I mean, it was fine. However, when I started analyzing the titles and SERPs individually and using the Google API NLP demo, they have a demo you can just use. You don't even need to um, build a code from scratch or anything. And I started analyzing the titles there. I started to notice that shorter titles um, give clearer and are much clearer and precise on entities. So from there, you understand that a shorter title is actually better in search, not because it's 65 characters, because Google is never going to rank you just because you have 65 characters in your title. It's because it's precise. So that's a shift in my mindset. And it's just based off, analyzing things myself, right? So that's what I recommend. You need to look at what's happening, and it's changing. Don't take it for granted. For each client, based on their goals, you need to analyze the SERPs and see what's happening there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I do the news on here every few weeks and I can't keep up. I mean, I keep track of things and I put things aside to talk about on the next show. And then within a few days, it's already changed. So the number of AI overviews being shown, it changes. And, all these kind of things going on at Google, it's really hard to keep up with. I guess what I was going to ask you, actually, because you're working with different clients and stuff, are they aware of everything going on in search right now, or are they just kind of oblivious to it? Because I know that in my own experience, most people who don't work directly in SEO have no idea what's going on right now at Google and everything.
Some of them are very aware, are not, and those who are not, and some are aware at a high level, like different. So we have different levels, and you need to be able to talk to each based on their interest and the depth they would like to learn about, right? I would say always keep it simple. Like sometimes in SEO, sometimes not everyone, maybe me, it can come off as dramatic. Oh my God, there's a search update or whatever. Let's avoid that. Just it's important to show them that you're staying on top of things, and just let's not just exaggerate things. It's changing. It has always been changing, maybe not at that same pace, but we'll catch up. So at some point, once the dust settles. And another thing we have done internally on our team, which I really, really like, we have a dedicated Slack channel for SEO news, and we are pulling all the SEO roundtable from Barry, all the articles there directly. So during the day, you can just scroll. Even if you don't have time to read each one of them, you can just read the titles. Oh, okay, that's something I'm interested in or not. For example, stuff about local SEO. I don't do local SEO, so I just skip. Also, Barry has daily, like a summary of what happened, so you can check that instead as well. So that's a very good place to start, and it keeps you on top of things to an extent, right? You just need to put some effort into checking it.
Yeah, I think I use a Looker Studio that was created by someone who updates all the latest SEO news, and it breaks it down into technical SEO, and you could go through the different tabs, and it just feeds through, like you say, from Search Engine Journal and Roundtable and all those kind of publications. So I'll actually put a link in the description for that.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Yeah, if you can share that, that's pretty cool as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really well done. So I guess, how concerned are you, if at all, by the sort of AI overview sort of drama that's going on right now? Is it kind of something that concerns you? Are you doing anything different to kind of be featured more on these kind of features, or like you would for SERP features, or are you just kind of seeing how it goes, as you say, so letting dust sort of settle?
I wouldn't say something different specifically. There's nothing specifically different to be done right now. And not just AI overviews. You want to appear in ChatGPT, for example, right? The thing that's particularly interesting for me is that there was a study that came out with, for AI overviews, more than, I think, 45% or something of the links shown there are not coming from the first page, right? And it's shocking because, okay, that means, like, that's where I started analyzing the situation, because that means, what does that mean? That means, first of all, the ranking system and AI overview are not the same. It appears to be like they're different. They're not reliant on each other. And then the AI overviews, I would assume it's more about good content to pull good answers. So there is way more than just being helpful to being on the first page, right? That's how, like, okay, there's other things. So I'm assuming a lot of it has to do with authority. So I feel, in a way, having this AI overview, Google is showing us results that are just helpful, and then results that are helpful and has other factors impacting them, and that's why they're on the first page. So this is where I'm looking into right now, just to try to understand why is this in ranking first, or not ranking on the first page. It's not just because it's helpful, because they always keep saying, just write helpful content. Yeah, sure, but results on 9th page are getting featured in AI overview. So it's not just about being helpful, right? So that's where I'm trying to dig into, like, what else, of course, authority, but what does that look like? I'm assuming it's not just links. Links are important. They're still important, but I'm sure there are definitely other things as well that convey authority. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Obviously, Lily Ray shared a post recently, and it was about obviously the processes. I think she was at a conference and someone was talking about it, and about how it comes up with the answer. So it finds all the different parts of the question, puts it together, then it goes out to look for relevant resources that kind of match what their answer is. And like you say, it's most of the time it seemed that a lot of it wasn't actually what you would expect in the top kind of 3 or 4 results. So yeah, it's very odd. I mean, we use a tool called Botify, and it has a feature telling us what pages are currently being crawled by ChatGPT. And it's very, what I expected is not what it seems to be showing up. It seems to be showing up at kind of the kind of pages I wouldn't really expect them to, compared to like all the rest that have what the kind of traffic levels that we get on those pages. So very, very it'll be interesting to see their algorithm and that kind of thing. That'd be interesting.
And interesting enough, on the first page, sometimes when I'm analyzing like keywords to see like what's ranking for them, there are pages that are 403 or not working. So, and they're on the first page, like you would say that Google would be very sensitive to the URLs listed there. And there's more than just being helpful. Like, we're being told generic advice, which is okay. However, it can be I'm trying to like find the right word. Okay, let's say not specific, or not specific enough for us to know what to do, right? And I think Google's advice is, the aim there is maybe at a very high level, tell us all the right things to do, but not how to rank. So these are two different things, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, I just had a chat with Daniel Foley Carter, and he was saying about, obviously, and many people said it, but the helpful content update, people have followed all the rules. They've tried to create helpful content, and they get absolutely demolished, their traffic. And it's not really given much trust in terms of, us publishers trying to trust what Google are doing in the processes. It's obviously quite tricky. And I get it, obviously, it's not easy putting together all these different. It was a very big update. The last few updates have been huge on Google. They've said that themselves. It's kind of the biggest they've ever done. And things can go wrong when you do things at large scale. So I guess they're going to try and, rectify all those issues quite soon. I think they've said there's one coming up. Another update in the next few weeks is probably likely. So, yeah, should be interesting to see where that goes. And in terms of that, where do you see the future going in terms of search in general, I guess, because obviously you throw in, if OpenAI do get involved, do you think that would even turn the dial? Do you think Bing can actually start to take any market share? It's all going to completely explode, and it's going to go totally wrong.
Okay, I know that as marketers, we are not the traditional user. However, we would fall into the early adapters. And however, I'm using a lot Perplexity and ChatGPT to get information I want, right? A lot of it are not information, it's more about answers, and that's different. When you say information, it's just, they just extract some, like a block and just throw it at you. That's information. An answer is a curated thing that makes sense. So I'm using ChatGPT and Perplexity a lot. And the way I see the future, it's interesting. It's a lot of automation, however, a lot of manual work as well, because that's where you cannot replace a good SEO. Like the insights, the opinions, the way they look at things, that's where you cannot replace a good SEO. However, the automations are important as well. The reason for that is you don't want to be left behind. You want to speed things up. You want to get all the basic stuff done without wasting your time there, and investing your time on areas where it does matter more.
In terms of like the social side of it, obviously we've seen kind of the younger generations move over to, social platforms like TikTok to kind of do their search, at least their initial kind of searches for things. Do you take that into account? Do you think that's going to grow? I mean, obviously you're saying like tools like Perplexity and ChatGPT, and I use Claude and, things like that.
Gemini, Meta AI. Like I when I'm doing client work, I avoid relying on one tool. Just to know what's going on there, right? Like, okay, what would the other one say, right? So, and I recommend that. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. So
even so, generally speaking, avoid relying on one tool in SEO. keyword research or tech audits, or avoid relying on one tool. It's not enough, in my opinion.
No, I agree. I mean, yeah, there's no one tool that's got 100% accuracy, even the Google-based tools. And do you think just generally when you're putting strategies together, do you now consider the likes of TikTok and things, depending on the client? Do you take that into account in terms of ranking in those platforms, or do you continue to focus on Google and presume that? Or,
I have not yet came across a client that's dedicating a lot of effort to TikTok. I would like to see that. However, I've seen clients with a good um, like a good foundation on YouTube. They have a lot of videos there. When that's there, when that's available, I definitely look into YouTube how to optimize that. And the reason for that is you want to rank on YouTube search, and then it also helps you rank on Google search with the videos. So definitely an asset you should leverage, right? And one of the things I do, for example, for YouTube is I have created a Python script where I pull all the video URLs from there and put them in like a spreadsheet, and then I categorize them by type. Okay, what type is this? Is this a promotional video? Is this a how-to video? Is this a like a review? Whatever. Like you categorize them, and then you curate this information, and this where you get insights. So uh, and of course you pull the views data, how many views each video got, and it's also helpful in optimizing because you can pull like the tag information, the title information. So you pull all of these things. You can create a report saying, okay, this type of videos got you the most views, this got you less, and why. Like this is something we can analyze. And sometimes the client would say, oh, the promotional videos got more views because we invested in ads, so let's just not count that and look at the rest. So yeah, it definitely would help the client, inform the client on how to build their their YouTube SEO strategy moving forward, and what type of videos to create. And then it's also very helpful in optimizing the videos, because then you have just the list. You go through the titles one by one, and if there's missing tags and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I found out myself. I'm still trying to work out the YouTube algorithm. It's it's a tricky one.
And you know what? A general tip there, and I always say that there are no hacks or secrets in SEO, right? There's that does not exist. It's the only hack or secret, if you want to say, is just what you manually do yourself, right? What you find out yourself. But it's not that much of a secret. I would say it's the effort you pour in. If you're relying on tools, just what the tool is going to tell you, you're definitely being left behind.
No, that's a great, great suggestion, and also, I see it like people. We're all the same, but our DNAs are slightly different. Like all parts of, if it's a video, like whether it's an article, whatever, and these things have got to be considered slightly different every time. Obviously, there's going to be trends and patterns as you go through it, but every bit of DNA is slightly different. So you've got to have that little bit of focus around each entity. So, yeah, no, that's great. And in terms of, we kind of covered this, but I guess obviously with your kind of client hat on, what's the most kind of common challenges that you're seeing right now in SEO? Is there kind of a common trend or pattern that you've seen?
I think it's always been that way, explaining to clients why things that happen, why this is not ranking and why is this ranking. That can be a challenge, of course. And it's not just to explain to clients, it's also for you to understand what's happening in search. So the biggest question is, why is this ranking, right? And I think one way we need to understand is that Google basically is trying to tell you which cake tastes better without actually tasting the cake, right? So because it's hard to assume that Google is actually reading each word on each article on all the URLs. So there has to be a high level way where Google is finding patterns and associations. When this is there, that means it's good quality. This is there, that means it's better. um I mean, if you are trying to say which cake tastes better without actually tasting it, you would first look at the aesthetics of the cake. Okay, that looks better, that has fruits, that doesn't, stuff like that at a high level, right? Maybe you cut it, look how it looks from inside. This is soft, this is not. So and you have not tasted it, so I'm assuming there's a lot of this that's Google doing. It's machine learning, so there's a lot of patterns that we we need to find ourselves to be able to understand why are these URLs ranking and why others are not, even though they're helpful, they appear in AI overviews. So yeah.
That's great, and yeah, I love that cake comparison. That's
I mean, who
fantastic.
doesn't like cake, right?
Right, yeah, exactly. So how do you then? So say a client kind of says, why is this not ranking? I really need this to rank. How do you explain to them kind of how search works and why that isn't ranking, and what the plans are to kind of perhaps change that? Obviously, it would vary depending on every so many, like we say, it depends on so many things. But have you got a kind of strategy on how you kind of previous case studies or something that you roll out? Or
It really depends, right? um I'm just trying to give you like come up with a good example. I do need a minute, so I'm not sure how this
I'll
would
put
work.
you on the spot.
I just would need a minute. Okay, it's. I'm sorry.
Just general, even if you like, how would you kind of educate your clients on SEO?
Yeah.
Do you have a kind of way of doing it? Do you just discuss it in a chat, or do you have a presentation, or do you have, obviously you're building a course, but do you send them to websites to read?
Okay.
Or
Here is a thing I did in the past. We send recommendations to optimize URLs. For example, once they're optimized, I give them some time and then I show the client those performed. We optimize them. What happened? Sometimes it's really clear. You can show like the optimization happened here. Like a few days later, when Google started picking up those changes, you can start seeing improvement in impressions. And impressions are not the goal, but there are like early signs that we are in the right direction, right? And we're starting to rank maybe for terms that we weren't before. So you start showing any early indicators of improvements. And for transparency, you can also show the URLs that did not see any improvement, even though they got the same optimization recommendations, which shows that it's really on a case by case basis. I mean, there are optimizations you need to do, like title tags, and you need to make sure the content is like comprehensive and it has the right keyword, all the basic stuff. But there is more to it. When I like when I've shown that, you get a lot of cooperation and interest in what you're doing. So that's in executing more on SEO. So that's one way. Like, always try to show early results and it does put a lot of pressure on us as SEOs. However, I mean, there's no work around it. Like, if the client have a good understanding of SEO, that helps. If they don't, then you need to show some movement. One time in the past that this has helped. Um, okay, like the fastest thing you can do, I did like a tech audit, pulled URLs with, I have like a small calculation I do, like this may have more potential than the other. I call this content push. So for example, the average clicks a URL is getting per month on average, like you sort of neutralize it and compare it with others. Okay, this is getting more, like some just basic calculations to see like the average, where does it stand, the number of impressions it's getting, stuff like that on average. And then I selected 10 URLs that have high potential and I linked to them from the footer. And then you monitor them before and after. And then you have also control URLs that you did not link to from the footer, like you did the same efforts here and there, but these were not linked to from the footer. And then you start comparing, showing those set that you linked to from the footer, they're starting to show some improvement. So early movements do help. Being able to show early movement helps clients, and even if you're in-house, helps you other stakeholders connect the dots. I mean, one weird aha moment I heard from a product marketer, which was weird because you'd think it's like, of course, like they were like, oh, so you what you're actually doing impacts performance, really? And I'm like, yeah. But they have not seen it that way, presented to them that way before. All they've seen is just recommendations thrown at them. And that's why I'm also a big advocate of reporting properly as much as possible to the best of our ability to the clients. I'm not saying we should have comprehensive 10-page reports every month. That's not helpful for anyone. However, you need to be cover enough, right? So for example, recently I'm looking at a client, I'm doing a monthly report for a client, and I decided to look at the step back and look at the big picture, the last 16 months. And then I use this plugin, that SEO Guardian, that shows you like the Google updates, core update, spam update, whatever, on the Search Console right directly. And you can start, looking at how your website is behaving against those updates. What happens when there's a core update? What happens when there's a spam update? And then you can see patterns. Like if your website is, every time there's a core update, there it's going down, and then it's recovering later, and then it's going down. And I would say, for example, this means this means that we're generally there are some generic work that needs to be done there. Like we're not meeting some generic guidelines because core updates are, there's nothing specific you can do to recover from a core update. So the reason we're just fluctuating is probably there's some generic stuff that needs to be done there. Google incorporated the helpful content update recently with the core update. So if that's the only core update that you saw your client's website respond to, then it's a good assumption to say that, okay, we need some work on the helpful content update part.
No, it's great. And yeah, you made some really good points there, because I think
I did talk a lot.
No, it's fine. And you kind of said something that resonated with me, because I've been guilty of this in the past, where, especially with like tests and things going on, you kind of want to see, roll the whole thing out, then kind of analyze it, and then kind of roll out the results. But sometimes it's good, like you say, to drip feed those results as they're going along, to try and keep people engaged and motivated to carry on going. Because obviously, like you say, stakeholders can sometimes get very precious with their website or their website area or whatever they're in control of. And if they don't start seeing things soon, they start getting itchy feet, and they start thinking, maybe we should just stop it and, revert back. But obviously, you're drip feeding them through, giving them sort of confidence that it's the right thing to do. And I think that helps.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it for me.
I mean, managing client relations is a totally different skill set than being a good SEO. Like these are you can be the best SEO and you can suck at managing client relations and communication. Like something I'm working on recently is, and I hope I did that throughout this interview, is speak slowly and try to enunciate a bit, because I tend to speak fast, and some letters apparently disappear. So, and that's not just, that's a part of communication, of course, but there are other aspects of what to communicate to the client, how to communicate things. So another thing for me, for example, if something is good, I don't emphasize it because it's good. Like, okay, we're done with this. Let's go to the next problem and next issue. So I'm focused on issues and, things that need to be fixed. And when you're talking to clients, you need to have a balance. Like, okay, you need to show, like, emphasize on the good results they're seeing. You need to have this moment of like, yay, we did it, and then, okay, move to the issues that needs to be addressed, versus just, okay, this is good, let's move to those problems or those things that we need to tackle. So there's a lot of client management. Like, a lot of people can actually keep clients even though they're not performing well if they have good client management skills. And you can be a very good SEO. It's just, if you're not good in client management, it can definitely, make your work look less valuable, right?
No, 100%. And
Yeah. And
you
I
know, I think,
personally worked with SEOs. I personally worked firsthand with SEOs in the past. They're they're not the best SEOs. They're good. They're okay, right? They okay. They're fine. Not They're not even that up to speed with what's going on. However, they're really, really good at dealing with their clients, making clients happy.
yeah, no, I've seen that as well. And I think you talk brilliantly, by the way, so don't have any concerns there. And also, I think that's a really good example as well, because when you're talking to clients or internal stakeholders, you can't just give them good information all the time. I know sometimes people are scared or worried about giving bad information. It looks like you're not doing a good job, but that's not our role. Our role is to fix these issues and to find them and resolve them. And it can't always be good news. We're not in control of the Google machine and so on. Things will happen. You will get affected by it. It's about how you recover and how you kind of resolve it. So, yeah, I think, that's really good kind of tips there. And yeah, we're good for time. I'm just seeing in terms of kind of, and you touched upon it just now actually, but how do you kind of report on, you kind of just said about it, but how do you track and report your findings to your clients? Are there any specific tools that you've kind of mentioned a few, but and does it change between client? Do you give bigger reports to some and smaller to others depending on the situation?
That's a good question, because this is something we're actually internally discussing at Digital Sisco. And I like that we are discussing this and dedicating time to, okay, what's the best way to report to the client? What do they need, like, necessarily to see there? And what is just noise? We're cluttering or throwing information that's not useful to them there. And I think my approach so far, I'm trying to keep it simple, stupid. However, I think I'm overloading my slides with screenshots. So um, I'm trying to figure out a balance there. Aesthetics, of course, you need the slides to look good as well. And sometimes it's just small things you do, like increase of 20%, for example, or whatever percentage year over year. I just maybe bold it and make it in green, because just to highlight it, right? You, like, if it's because I have this tendency of not highlighting the good things, I started to actually highlight them, because in case I'm not highlighting them when I speak, they're visibly there. I just use the basics. Search Console, I use GA. We internally have our own script that helps us in reporting as well, creates an awesome report, and insights as well. sometimes I would write my notes on like the performance into ChatGPT and ask it to like rephrase it in a more structured, like I use ChatGPT a lot for language, and it can help a lot. It's a good place to like dump your ideas and tell it to clean it up, right? So that I do that as well. I am a big fan of looking manually at data. When it's at small scale, like when we're talking about a URL or something, a specific keyword that's important to the client. However, like as I said, automations are necessary, and we have our own script internally and own automation that helps us do that.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really underrated. And I think obviously with the rise of technology and AI, obviously it's powerful now. It can do so many things for us, but the manual checking sometimes just for your own knowledge and your own insight is so powerful. And I still take time, like you say, to actually go in and look at the data myself, and from different sources, because as we say, it can be quite inconsistent across platforms and you can't just take their word from it sometimes. But yeah, it's really interesting and interesting to see the kind of inner works of your your agency there. In terms of well, again, we've kind of touched upon this, but your favorite tools. There's so many, and obviously we're trying to do sort of tool kind of analysis on this channel to kind of go through different tools and stuff. What's your kind of go-tos, I guess?
Okay, very cliche, very standard. Search Console. I live there. I don't like. I love this tool. I love it. So that's definitely number one. Other tools, I would say Screaming Frog, Ahrefs, or SEMrush, whatever works. Whatever's both or either or. Very high level. These are my favorite tools. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're great tools, so you can't argue with that. And also, there's a new tool, SEO Stack by Daniel Foley Carter, and it's incorporating Google Search Console, and it does loads of really cool things at AI. So we just offered a discount on that in the last sort of week on one of my videos. So yeah, maybe people can check that out, because if you do use Search Console quite often, it's quite a cool tool to go and have a look at. In terms of again, we've kind of touched upon it. This is kind of the last area I think we're going to go over. But in terms of generative AI, one, where do you think it's going to threaten SEOs' jobs? Two, how do you use it? And three, where does it go? Like, what does it need?
Is it just threatening SEO jobs? I think it's a lot. So here's the thing, and I think I've discussed this briefly on LinkedIn. The safety of users, let's just say it as it is an afterthought when releasing new technology. They just throw it at us and then see how it works. And that happened actually when they released ChatGPT in the beginning. It was crazy, right? It was doing all sorts of things it shouldn't be doing. One of them was actually pulling paid content, and showing it to users for free, right? It was crazy. What obviously they figured, like they put measures to prevent it from doing a lot of and giving a lot of those wrong answers and harmful answers. However, it's an afterthought, and AI, unfortunately, right now is just being unleashed, this thing that's being thrown at us. And I've read somewhere that they looked at the research papers on AI, and very little are dedicated to safety. So that's a problem, a lot actually. And then it's not just, I don't think generative AI or an LLM will ever take the place of a good SEO. I don't think so. What I think it's going to happen is it's raising the bar, because if what you're doing can be done by a tool, then you're not doing a good enough job. For example, if you're sending recommendations to the clients that are just that ChatGPT can do. Like, for example, okay, how to improve a ranking for a keyword. For, like, if you type that on ChatGPT and it will give you generic advice, and then you follow this generic advice, that's not enough, right? That's not good enough anymore. So it's raising the bar for what good SEO work is, and then it's also raising the bar for the quality of your deliverables, because there are things right now that I mean, there's going to be a level of quality. If you don't meet it's just, it doesn't make sense, because a level of accuracy, level, that sort of thing, because you have the tools to help you double check everything. You have the tools to help you rewrite everything you need to rewrite. So they're, in a way, they are tools that will empower you. I don't think they're going to replace a good SEO ever. And I mean, even on the strategy level specifically as well, not specifically as well. On the strategy level, there's always new things to do. And that's where ChatGPT won't be, and LLMs won't be helpful, because they're built on what has been done already. So that's one part. Another threat is the AI generated content, which is, I'm hoping that we're not drowning in this sort of spam anymore. I hope, in my mind. However, I know for sure that there are a lot of people still using it to generate content. And I'm not against it. I'm just against 100% AI generated content. It does not make sense. Like, what's that? Like, just rehashing what's there. What you can use AI to generate content to support what you're doing. You're writing something, and then it helps you rewrite, it helps you structure it, or that sort of thing. So yeah, that's in summary.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully when Google get their act together and they proper execute the helpful content update, it will flush out the remaining sort of AI only based content, because like you say, it's not helping anyone really. And in terms of, using the tools yourself, you said you on your own daily basis kind of use the tools. And in terms of work, do you use it mainly for data analysis, visualization? What's the kind of, you said you kind of for language based stuff as well, but is there any other sort of user experience, user
One thing
base
yeah,
use it for? So?
there's just one thing I was about to forget, and I didn't, luckily. Let's not forget that the text generated by ChatGPT is reproducible, so it can actually generate the exact same text to someone else. So these are not the best tool to create content for your website. You would create it, then you need to edit it, use different LLMs. Like, there's a lot of things you need to do, but don't just copy and paste. So that's one thing. The uses, I use them to find, for example, semantically related entities to a keyword. I use them to brainstorm, like a sounding board. As I said, rewrites. Sometimes research. Sometimes I'm trying to explain a concept to a client. I'm like trying to write a short paragraph about it, specifically technical topics. It would help there as well. So coding debugging, when there's an issue with the code and I'm not able to figure it out, it's easier to just plug it in there. What's wrong with that code? Schema codes as well. Like, I'm working on a schema code. I have it. Okay, I want to nest, for example, main entity schema there, how to nest it in there, or like stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And do you kind of mess around with any models or anything, or you haven't really reached that? You haven't really gone there yet.
No, not yet. Just I'm just using like the normal stuff everyone else is using: ChatGPT, Gemini, Meta AI, Perplexity. Yeah.
Oh, great. And yeah, well, thanks for today. Hopefully I can get you back on, because I've been really enjoyed this conversation. And I guess just lastly, where can people get in touch with you? Obviously, I'll put the links in the description, but yeah, where can people get hold of you?
I'm always on LinkedIn. And I have a newsletter. I'm not actively sending it right now, but they can definitely sign up for it. Sara-Taher.com. Yeah, that's where that's all. Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it. It's a new channel, so I really appreciate you jumping on, and it's been a great conversation. Obviously, once you get your course out there, it'd be great to have you back on to discuss that and how it works, and in proper detail. That'd be awesome. And yeah, thank you, and enjoy your day, and we'll speak soon.
Thanks for having me.